Today on the blog, I am interviewing David, one of the senior residents of Dulwich Mead, one of the places that we write to in the UK. David tells me a little bit about how the letters and cards that he's received from Letters Against Isolation have impacted his pandemic experience, and he talks about his pen pal, Jahanie, who lives over in Singapore. I hope you enjoy. So David, tell me a little bit about the letters and cards you've received.
It came from Las Cruces
Wow.
in New Mexico,
Oh my goodness.
and it's Kathy is the writer,
Yeah.
but there was no address with it, but I thought
Right.
it was quite an interesting one. Talks about a life all over the place, I think.
Well, it must have been quite a surprise to receive a letter all the way from America, especially in the pandemic. Nobody's able to travel, so
That's right, yeah.
you're getting letters from all over the world.
Yeah. So that was the first one, but
Yeah.
there was no address, so I couldn't reply to that.
Yeah.
And all of them are written on this beautiful
Yeah.
stationery.
Absolutely.
The next one, I think, was, yes, this was the next one. Hello from Singapore. Well, that caught my attention.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I served with the Royal Air Force in Singapore
Yes.
when I was 21.
Yeah.
And so
that must have brought up a few memories.
well, it did. I mean, and as you'll figure out, I thought it was Jahanie, but it's Jahanie.
Okay.
And she is of Tamil descent
Yes.
and lives in an apartment in Singapore.
Wow.
And that is, I'll put this, that is her apartment.
Wow.
That's the building she lives in
Yeah.
any event.
And do you know what brought her to Singapore?
I haven't got to the bottom of that,
Okay.
and we do skirt round it in correspondence,
Yes.
but I don't intrude, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
So that was nice from
That's
Jahanie.
beautiful.
And this stamping, she calls it.
Oh wow.
Do you know?
That's
Do you know
amazing.
this? Is it a method of printing?
I guess yes. You must have some
Stamping
ink
is my
and-
new pandemic hobby, she said.
I love it.
Hope you like a piece of the rainforest to remind you of your days in Malaya.
Wow.
Well, there we are in the rainforest
That's
in
very
Malaya.
thoughtful. Well,
And this is one, I think, a little bit more recent,
yeah,
where she goes to a local pottery
Oh.
pottery class.
that's amazing. So it seems like she's very creative.
She's very creative, has plenty to write about.
Yes. How?
But is probably a bit like me, a bit scatterbrained.
Yeah.
We're a bit all over the
Yeah.
place. Very nice lady.
How frequently do you exchange letters with her?
Oh, it works out about once a month, I think.
Yeah.
Probably once
Yeah.
every 5 weeks, something like that. Don't go too heavy on it.
Right.
You know.
It must take a while for your letters to get all the way there.
Well, the airmail takes 4 days.
Okay.
But she sent one to me that didn't arrive, and when it came, it said on the envelope she hadn't put sufficient stamp on it for airmail, so it came by surface mail. It took
Okay.
about 2 months.
Wow, that's
Well,
a long time.
That's probably exaggerated, but
Yes.
it took an awful long time.
Yes.
When I went to Singapore in 1958,
Yeah.
no 57, went by troop ship
Yeah.
from Southampton to Singapore, but it was via the Cape because the Suez crisis
Yeah.
was taking place at the
Right.
time, so they took us right around. We stopped at Cape Town and Durban,
Yeah.
then over to Ceylon, Colombo.
Wow.
It's got another name now,
Yeah.
but Sri Lanka.
Yes.
But I can't remember the capital name. We used to call
Yeah.
it Colombo,
Yeah.
and from there to Singapore,
That's quite a long journey.
and that was 5 weeks.
Wow.
So that was a treat.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't have a lot to do on the boat,
Yeah.
and it wasn't overcrowded.
Yeah.
So just enjoying the sunshine,
Yeah.
going through the tropics, and
Yeah.
great stuff.
Did you stop along the way at any point, or you just a continuous boat journey?
We stopped at
Yeah.
Cape Town.
Okay.
We had a day and a half in Cape
Yeah.
Town, and then they refuelled in Durban, which is a bit up the coast.
Yeah.
And then across to Ceylon, where we had sort of half a day ashore.
Yeah.
So we did see a little
Yeah,
bit of
little
the
bit.
Orient.
Yes. Well, you've been all over then, David.
Apart from that, not really. I've
Yeah.
been to France quite a lot because
Yes.
my daughter has a
Oh.
cottage there.
Yes.
And no, I haven't. And we used to caravan when my wife was alive. We used to caravan in France a lot,
Yeah. Wow.
but haven't been haven't seen the world at large, not the Middle East or the Far East, or apart from my experience. That was a bookmark that she sent.
Oh, wow.
Now then, this is a copy of the first letter that I wrote.
Ooh.
Back, you see, it's quite, I'm not good at handwriting. My fingers have all gone, so I don't look at so that people can read that.
Well, that's lovely printing. I like the colours.
Well, it's just I'd run out of black.
Well, very creative.
So that was the sort of the best letter. Now, I mean, I say I was born in Durham, and I'm sending you a photo of me in Singapore, also a card of old London to represent where I am now, I suppose. And I say, most of us here are in the age range of 70 to 90, which I think is about right.
Yeah.
And have had our first COVID jab, but of course we have to follow lockdown rules.
Yes.
And I hope all your friends are well and attending to your studies, I said, because I thought she was a young lady, but apparently she's in her late 30s, approaching 40.
Yeah.
I think. Now, yeah. I thought it was a schoolgirl, right? And she replied saying,
oh, that's a nice long letter.
well, you get a lot of, it starts, what a delightful letter from you. That gets me in the right mood, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
It was chock full of stories and I enjoyed each of them.
Oh.
But what I did, I had 2 or 3 years ago, 2018 actually, marked the 60th anniversary of my leaving the RAF.
Really?
And at that point I thought, I better write something about this. And I've written about 8,000 words of my national service experience. So I've sent her extracts from that. Yes. The ones that relate to Singapore.
That's amazing. Well, my grandma told me that you have written a book, I think.
I have written a book.
That's amazing.
But that was when I retired in 1999. I retired, and my wife said I ought to be doing something with my time. So I sat down and wrote a book about my childhood and the places where I lived. Yeah. And the locality, about my family background, all of that sort of stuff. Anyhow, that's my background, and that's Jahanie said the pandemic has certainly taken a toll on me. Yeah. Now I've marked this to, despite my only being an administrator, she says, I designed mental health promotion programs, so I did escape the initial onslaught. I'm kept plenty busy as things started to normalise, in inverted commas. The lockdown created isolation of a type of latent anxiety and a slow burn. Yes. Singapore is luckier than most. I try to remember that on most days. Today, however, I do miss my loved ones. My parents retired in Malaysia, and my partner is stuck with his family in Bordeaux, France. Oh, wow. Keeping my fingers crossed that I'll be with them soon. I've not seen them a little bit more than a year. So that's the setting in which it was interesting about Bordeaux, of course. Yeah. Because, say, my daughter has a cottage not too far away from there. Wow. And of course the Tamil people, there was part of southern India where the French had a protectorate, as they called it, and there was a French connection with Tamils in southern India. Right. So I've tried to
it's amazing
to bore into that, but I haven't really got to the heart of it yet. Yeah. So that was that's Jahanie. It was a lovely lady, and I write to her regularly. Yeah. This next one says, Dear friend, hello and salutations from southeast France, where I've lived for 14 years. I'm an American who moved to Paris at age 23 and married an Italian there before having my children in Caen, Normandy. Tomorrow, June 21st, is the first day of summer. And she said there's an outdoor and indoor music festival in all of France. Wow. And she did have an address, so I replied to her. Yes. And she has since written another letter back. I don't think I have it here. Wait a minute. Oh yes, wait a minute. Her name is Pellerin.
Oh, That's a nice name.
Pellerin, maybe, I don't know. And that's the lady that I've just been mentioning, who lives in France.
Yeah.
So that was her.
Yeah.
And I owe her.
She's got beautiful writing.
Yes. And all of these letters seem to come on lovely paper. Well, mine come on A4 printer paper when I send mine back. But that was that one. And another one is from Hartford, Connecticut, Manchester, Connecticut.
Very close to where we live.
I thought it might be, yes. And this lady.
Oh, wow. Very neat.
Very neat.
Writing, yeah.
She says she's a librarian. I don't know any more details than that. But she says this: much to my disappointment, in spite of being the child of career army officers, I never ended up anywhere terribly interesting. My mother was due to be posted to Germany when I was young, and then Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and the army decided she was more valuable stateside.
Yeah.
So here we stayed.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was much angrier with Saddam for disrupting our plans than I was about any of the other activities. Still, I got to see all sorts of places here in the US. So that's...
wow.
So she was called an unusual name, Drusilla.
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 You've got letters now coming from all over the world.
Well,
Singapore,
yes,
France, America.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a marvellous organisation that you put together.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you very much, David.
Yeah.
And I mean, people are always so happy to hear back from the seniors, so I'm sure you've made all these volunteers very happy when they receive your letters back in the mail.
Well, I think they do. I get the reply. That's an indication that they're interested, isn't it? But I mean, if I hadn't been doing this, I'd have been writing something else.
Yes.
So it's nice to have it personalised to a certain extent, you know.
Yeah.
And poor old Jahanie, I sometimes feel like her grandfather, you know, because I don't have any grandchildren of my own.
Well, it's a great way to meet people that you would never have met otherwise.
Well, that's right. Yes. So there you are. I think that's really about it.